Welcome to Scrapception. I have scraps made out of patchwork, made out of scraps, made out of patchwork. Expecting myself to have words first thing in the morning is why I write scripts. I literally just rolled out of bed. I don't have words yet. Y'all, it's time to use the patchwork scraps from the dress that I recently made, that you've probably seen if you're here. If you haven't, there it is. Despite my very complicated math, wasn't it so complicated and precise? I somehow managed to end up with way more squares than I actually needed, and even like a bit of fabric left. We've got several like small scraps that you'd expect to have from cutting anything out. But then we also have this piece right here that's like a pretty decent size. And then I'm not gonna count these, but like I'm gonna guess several hundred squares left over. So my plan was to make a bunch of stuff, a bunch of little easy things, and then we're gonna do our annual charity auction. It's annual now. I've only done it once before, but I really liked how that went. I liked doing it, so now I'm gonna keep doing it, hopefully every single year. And this is gonna be the charity auction for this year, whatever I make in this video out of these scraps. Stay tuned till the end of the video to find out more about the actual auction. I asked y'all what I should make though, and of course you gave me a vast supply of answers. Thank you for all of that. I think I'm just gonna start with one item, make several of those, then switch to a new item, keep going until everything is gone, essentially. And the item I'm gonna start with is the historical tie-on pockets, because a bunch of people were very excited about that, and that's gonna potentially be the largest item and also require like a lining, as opposed to most of the other items I can think of that are a little simpler in nature. So my thought is that I will make however many I can get out of this piece of fabric and maybe some of the larger scraps here, and we won't touch the squares yet. I'll leave those for the next round. I've actually never made a historical pocket, but I've made a lot of pockets, so how hard can it be? They're usually a little deep U, a bulbous deep U shape. 2 layers, but of course I'm gonna have to line this because the edges are raw on the back, so 4 layers. And then usually the opening is bound in bias tape and it's on like a bias tape. That was weird. It's on like a bias tape tie. I might do some with like a full around your waist tie and some without, because I think some people do like to attach them in a different way. I don't know though. Maybe I should put this on Instagram and ask, having never like used one myself. That seems like a pretty good size. You can definitely get a phone in there, you can definitely get your hand in there, but small enough that I can at least make several here. I might even do, You never really see the back of the pocket, and if I do the back in the patchwork, then I have to line it. If I do just the front in the patchwork, then I only have to line the front. And I could get more out of this. Yeah, okay, let's do it. If there's a lot of voiceover in this video, it's because we currently have construction happening on our garage. So, life be noisy these days. After quickly refreshing my brain on what a historical pocket looks like, I pulled a bunch of larger scraps that I can use for lining and for the backside, as well as the bias tape that I have, which is not much. I might be running to quilting for community later. I was able to get 8 pocket fronts out of my patchwork, so 8 historical pockets it shall be, and then I cut 4 linings on this adorable strawberry material and 4 on the fabric I lined my actual dress with. I pressed those well, did some simple quilting over the top just to hold them together better, and then pressed them again. I was getting rather creative on the quilting by the last few, so we have some weird wavy lines on some. Now I can cut a slit down the center. I'm gonna do 8 inches on this first one, although that might be a bit longish. And then it's time to bind the edges. Promptly forgot how to bind a straight slit like this and had to pull out ye old YouTube to tell me how. But then I didn't really like how everyone was saying to do it, so I kind of futzed around, but then ended up doing something that was pretty much the same anyway. Had to hand stitch the tricky part for it to work, and like, it's okay. I don't love it, but it's okay for my first try. I'm gonna try some different stuff on the rest, but first, I figured I'd fully finish one pocket as like proof of concept. Proof of ability to make a pocket is more like it. I cut out a back piece in the opposite fabric, because why not mix it up as much as possible, then used the same color of binding around the outer edge. I really like the light blue on this precise collection of patchwork. And finally added the fun purple gingham binding across the top with some really long ties. I'm still waiting on the general opinions of the public on ties versus no ties, so once I have that, I might do different stuff on the rest of the pockets. Yeah. But this one works pretty dang well and looks pretty dang cute and was pretty dang fun to make, so huzzah! Highly recommend crafting a tie-on historical pocket from your scraps if that's something you're into. On my second attempt, I tried cutting a bit more of a U shape for the opening and used a smaller bias binding. I think this black edging is actually my favorite with the patchwork in the end. It went, pretty much the same. Like, okay, but not great. Y'all are just gonna have to forgive my bias binding in general. It's not a skill I have, but I did get better at it during this process. And votes on ties versus loops versus nothing at all were like 6 to 3 to 1, so I made 5 of them with ties, one of which also has loops on the back, and then 3 with just loops that can either slide onto a belt or onto your own ribbon of choice. So that was fun, but I would very much like to not do any bias binding for a bit. The next item on my list to make is scrunchies. And this requires a long rectangle, so I think I'm gonna need to do it out of my actual leftover squares, because I don't really have much left here. Maybe like 1 that I could get out of my remaining pieced together scraps. But I was thinking about this yesterday, and I remembered those flower-shaped scrunchies that I've seen people make recently, which are really freaking cute. Croûte, I was about to say. En croûte. They're so cute. And I think with that, I could potentially cut out every petal separately, meaning that instead of being a long piece of fabric, I could do like squat pieces of fabric, I guess, is what I'm saying here? It's early. But like potentially I could get that out of some of my smaller scraps if I do one petal at a time and then sew the 5 petals together and then make the scrunchie. I still don't think I could do very many of these, possibly only one, but let me see if I can just make a little pattern piece. I'll recycle my pocket pattern piece because we're done with that. Do I need something round or a compass? Is this big enough? There's fur in my coffee again. Literally always. I'm surprised I don't cough up a hairball at some point. It's like 3.5 in diameter. That'll work. Okay, so basically this shape, the flaps on the side are so that I could sew my different petals together. Probably doesn't need to be that tall actually, now that I'm thinking about it. This is definitely a lot more complicated with me trying to piece it together one petal at a time, but that's the joy of patchwork, is it's already made up of a bunch of seams. So then if you want to put more seams in different places, it just looks normal. Okay, so these will be my 2 test rectangles for regular scrunchies, longer and thinner, shorter and wider. We'll see what the 2 finished ones look like. And then I can put together currently unsewn squares to match that. So I would technically need 10 petals. We'll see if I can get that out of my remaining fabric scraps here. Are you big enough? Ooh, you are. I think I might be able to get all 10. These are starting to be really small scraps. Like, at some point, they just have to go in the tiny scrap stuffing basket. Okay, so we'll just try to get that 10 times. I was indeed able to get 10 petals out of my remaining scraps. Didn't even have to try that hard. Wahoo! Then I set those aside to quickly go through my very messy elastic drawer. Ow! Now seems like a good time to separate out and potentially use all these little bits of elastic I have tossed in there over the last 3 years. I just realized this camera is incredibly crooked. I decided to start with the regular scrunchies. These could not be easier to make. You just sew the rectangle into a tube, turn it right side out, then thread a short-ish piece of elastic through there and either tie the ends together or sew them together super well. That should hold it. Then you can hand stitch the opening closed and ba-bam, scrunchie. I'ma do that again with my other rectangle. Onto the flower scrunchie, I sewed all the petals together to make the shape that you would normally cut out in the first place. This one. Now I can line those up right side to right side and stitch across the bottom and around all the scallops. I did not leave myself a very big hole to turn this right side out. We undergo the delightful task of turning it right side out. Oh, and I should note that if you happen to be using pre-made patchwork scraps like me, you have to keep an eye out for the places where the original stitching between the squares isn't locked into place with a back stitch. Your squares may start to pull away from each other on an edge where you don't want that to happen, so I don't know, just stay alert. Once that was ironed nice and flat, I cut a piece of elastic to go inside and then thought, wouldn't it be cute to stuff each of the petals slightly so it's like a poofy 3D flower? I don't know if you think that's cute or not, but I do know that is what I did. The elastic goes through and yeah. I might make some more scrunchies later, in which case you'll see them right now. But at the moment, I think I'm gonna go explore my next option after I sew this together. Woo! So these are the pre-made scraps that I have left, the actual scraps from the dress. And they are pretty much all of the size that I can't really work with anymore. I mean, I'll probably save them and stack them up nicely, if for nothing else, just for next year's patchwork project, because Y'all know I love patchwork inception. I did get one more item out of this collection, which I will show you in a moment, in a little bit. I was just playing around yesterday, did a little thing. We'll talk about it in a minute. 'Tis time to use the squares though, and surprise, I already did. I spent the rest of yesterday piecing them all together. It was like 6 hours of me just putting squares next to each other and sewing straight lines. I used every single one except one of this striped material. I had one left over and it didn't fit on anything and I was like, whatever, good enough. Do you want a very fast tour of what I made? Let's do it. I think this one's my favorite. So my line of thinking with these various sizes is let me take a drink. Fur in my coffee every freaking time. The long strips I am planning to do bows out of, whether pre-tied bows or not, I'm still not sure. The large square I'm either going to line and leave as like a bandana, or I'm gonna cut it in half, and now I'll show you what I made before, and make two of these like headscarf bandanas. Doesn't really go with my bun. And then these smaller squares, some of these I think I'm gonna put in the charity auction as just the square, because several people did say they would love to just have a piece of the patchwork to do whatever they want with it. Most of y'all are crafty maker sewists, so I get that. And then the rest of these I am thinking dog bandanas. I suppose they could be cat bandanas too, but they might be too big for most cats. Also, most cats don't wear collars and would not put up with that. Also, y'all, a random side note, but I have been like massively overstimulated for the last few days. There's just like too much stuff going on. Too much. Before moving on to the rest of the actual projects, I went ahead and chose which squares I want to leave as blocks versus make into kerchiefs of whatever kind. Very difficult choice. I considered doing a poll on Instagram, but like, there are 12 of these. That would be so many questions and no one would agree. Once I had selected 5 blocks that I'll be putting up for auction as is, I just went ahead and cleaned up the edges. Look at that rotary cutter coming into use. Ooh. For the dog bandanas, you fold in 2 opposite corners of a square to the wrong side of the fabric and stitch them down across the edge. Then you fold the whole piece in half and stitch along the triangle shape up to the folded area at the top. You can then turn it right side out to get this hexagon shape? That's 5 sides, right? Or is it 6? Pentagon? Ooh, y'all. Childhood math, it's gone. Give it a good pressing, top stitch around that triangle, and then you can stitch a straight line across the bottom of the opening so that you have like a channel to thread the dog collar through, like so. I didn't line this one since so much of the fabric is doubled and enclosed anyway, but for the next one, I thought I'd try lining it. I was a little afraid this would make it too heavy, and it was more difficult to turn right side out, but it did end up looking a lot cleaner, and there are no raw edges in that top channel. I'm gonna make a couple more with varying channel sizes for varying collar sizes. Moving on to the head kerchiefs, head bandanas, whatever these things are. I'm gonna get 2 out of a single square by cutting it in half diagonally down the center, and then cutting out a lining side for each one. All different, of course. These are incredibly easy. Just sew down the 2 triangle sides with the fabric right side to right side, turn it right side out, and give it a press. And then you can top stitch around the edge, or quilt it if you want to, although you don't have to. Time for more bias binding! So much for swearing off of it for a while. Yeah, you just choose a length, find the center, and insert the open edge of your triangle, then sew it all down, and tra-la! Head kerchief thing. I'm turning these 2 pieces into, I guess, just like regular bandanas. I'm gonna line each one so it's a fully finished piece as opposed to the unfinished blocks, but I really don't know what people would do with them. It's up to whoever gets it, I guess. Couldn't be easier here. I'm just sewing the block and the lining right side to right side, leaving a very tiny hole to turn the whole thing out. I left myself a tiny, tiny hole. Isn't it amazing how much fabric you can yank through a tiny hole if you just do it bit by bit and squish together and stuff? I'm always fascinated by that. Now I'll stitch the hole closed by hand, press it well, and add some top stitching around the edge, and then, I went for a bit of quilting on this first one, but it doesn't look great, honestly. A little bit wonky enough that I might actually just not list this one. I don't know, I'll think about it. But don't worry, I shan't mess up the larger one that much. Last up, we have the bows, or things that could be tied into bows. I'm not yet sure how many I will pre-make versus leave as a flat tie. These long strips all get a lining piece of varying variety, and then it's all the same from here. Stitch around the edges, right side to right side, making the ends pointed or diagonal or whatever feels right in the moment. I left myself an even tinier hole. Why do I keep doing this? Turn it right side out through the very tiny hole. Oh yeah. Press it nice and flat. I will hand stitch those openings closed off camera. To make these strips into bows, you can just fold it inward like this and then scrunch it up in the center. And you can play around with the length you want your loops versus your tails. Sure. Once you like it, hold it in that exact configuration. Hopefully you prepped a needle and thread before you occupied one hand in bow holding, and then stitch through all those layers just to keep them in place. Pull it tight, give it several back and forths, make sure it's gonna stay. You can then wrap a ribbon or some bias tape or whatever you want around it, and you can just knot that in the back and leave tails so you can tie the bow onto something, or you can cut the piece short, fold over the end, and stitch it all down. If you're doing the cut it short method, definitely pull it as tight as possible as you go, but I also like to use just one piece of thread for the original tacking and for this tacking, so like it's all connected, because that will keep the centerpiece from spinning around. That's it, you got a cute little bow. This thicker tie I made doesn't do super well in that type of bow, but I like it just tied in the center like this, so I'm gonna leave it flat and simple so whoever gets it can do whatever they want with it. And that's all, y'all. We have used all the scraps. We have done all the things. For a final rundown, we have 8 tie-on pockets, 4 doggy neckerchiefs, 5 human head kerchiefs, 1 flower scrunchie, 5 regular scrunchies, one of which is a little different than the other 4. It's a little fluffier, bigger. We have 5 patchwork blocks, 2 bandanas, or whatever you want to call these, 4 pre-made bows, and 1 bow tie, make your own bow, do whatever you want with it thing. Good times! It was fun doing small projects like this because I don't typically make this kind of stuff for myself. I'm just not really an accessories kind of person, so I don't usually have much reason to make these fun little small projects. And they are such a good way to use up your scraps. They're great like beginner sewing projects. They don't require you to have a lot of fabric. You can definitely recycle some like old clothing or something that you have into a lot of this size of project. So highly recommend if you just want a fast, quick little fun sewing project, if you're trying to use up fabric scraps, if you are trying to grow your sewing skills. Projects like this are a lot of fun. And there's definitely so many more small project ideas that you guys gave me. You guys gave so many good suggestions. I just had a limited amount of fabric here. So theoretically in the future, I could do a whole second video of small, scrappy projects. There's enough things out there. But like I said at the start, all of these items are going to go up for auction via eBay because my charity auction is now going to be an annual thing. Yay! The link to the auction items will be in the description of this video, and each one is going to be listed separately with super low starting prices, mostly like $1 to $5. The auction will be open for 1 week, starting from the posting of this video, and then after it ends a week from today, I will take another week to process your orders, aka print a bunch of labels and pack everything and stuff. So hopefully, though I am not at all guaranteeing it, hopefully you should get this before Christmas in case anyone is ordering for gifting purposes or bidding for gifting purposes. As I did last year, I am going to cover the cost of shipping, including internationally, so that whatever you end up paying for the item you win, should you win one, that amount will go straight to charity. And given the very rainbowy nature of all of this stuff, it seemed only fitting that the charity this year that I've chosen is the Trevor Project. They are an incredible organization providing education, advocacy, and crisis services with a mission to end suicide among LGBTQ+ young people. I've linked their site in the description as well if you would like to read more about them or just donate straight to them. Oh, but I'm assuming, because this happened last year, that eBay will not actually let me put free shipping on international orders. I don't really know why that is, but it wouldn't let me last year. So what I did last year was just set international shipping as a flat rate of $1 because that was the least that it would let me put it. I'm gonna put like dimensions and measurements for everything on the listings of these, but they're all unique items. Every single thing here is different. I think the most similar things to each other are the scrunchies. So just make sure if there's a specific one out of a group that you like the best, that you're actually bidding on that one, you know? I think that is all the info that we need for this year, but I do have some random housekeeping from last year's charity auction. If you are the one person who won the bid and purchased an embroidery piece and never received it, there was only one, thank heavens, please get in touch. It took ages for the piece to get returned to me, and by the time that it did, eBay wouldn't let me contact you again. But I have it, and I would love to send it back to you if you can provide me with another address because the last one was not serviceable. And no one else go trying to sneak in on this. You can't fool me because I have this person's name and address. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for all of your suggestions for scrappy projects that I could make. I'm really happy that these charity auctions have worked and have provided a way for me to sell items that I've made without it being a long-term continuous commitment and without it being tied to income. Cause as you may have heard me talk about in some videos, I don't like selling physical items usually. Doing it one time a year in one group for charity makes it work, it makes it all good. So I'm excited to continue this every single year. Go forth and be awesome. Is that somebody else's catchphrase? Did I just steal that without realizing it? That feels like it already is somebody else's catchphrase. Do it anyway!
By the by.
By or by. I feel like I had words for this before. Goodness. Squish, 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 squish. I love your little butt. Yeah. Chair. Something for everyone, comedy tonight. I want to make... You zoomed in. Why do you seem so close? Wow. Good burpees. Kind of forgot how much of this I had left. Oh, that's a spider. Ah!